Well, we'll certainly begin with the opponent in Clemson, number one team in the country and deservingly so. Um, you know, everything they do well, all phases of the game, offense, defense, special teams, consistent and, everything, their record since 2018, 36-1. So, I'd be repeating if I didn't say that, Coach has done an incredible job here, and consistency is really what is amazing about this football team and what Dabo has done. So, again, just in all phases, they're well coached, prepared for everything, and we're excited about the opportunity to play the number one team in the country and have a great deal of respect for them. And I know our guys are excited about the opportunity.
All right, Coach, our first question will be from Tim Priester.
Brian, just talking in general terms when it comes to facing a young quarterback, what decisions do you want him to have to make, and what gives a young quarterback the greatest anxiety?
Well, we played Trevor Lawrence when he was a freshman, and there are some that you think would have a difficulty in certain situations relative to third down and different coverages, but they're well coached. These kids see a lot now and are well prepared. DJ will be well prepared for the number of things that we'll show him. The most important thing is to make sure that he's not comfortable back there. You got to get a great pass rush. You got to get him to move his feet. You got to make sure that they don't get in a rhythm, which is really the case for a lot of quarterbacks. And I just think that whether you're a freshman or whether you're a senior, I think a lot of the axioms are still the same, that you don't want a quarterback to feel comfortable. So for us defensively, get him out of a comfort zone. Don't let him in rhythm. Don't give him the easy throws that are comfortable for him, and make him do some things that he doesn't want to do.
We'll go next to Andrew Mentok.
In each of the last three seasons, there's been a big game where teams lost some momentum, and for one reason or another, maybe the game has gotten away from you. Especially given all the uncertainty your team has had to overcome over the past 7 months. How prepared do you feel your team is for those moments where maybe the ball doesn't bounce your way, or when one of the top-ranked teams in the country inevitably makes a few big plays?
Yeah, I mean, we're 29-3, over the last 32 games. I think, we're not a team that's easily, overcome with the moment. So we'll be just fine. We got to execute. And certainly the last time that we played poorly, we've won 12 in a row. So, you got to execute. You got to play well in the moment. But this team has exhibited that, they're not a team that's going to back away from a challenge. And when they're down, they'll certainly pick up their pace and answer any challenges that are in front of them. I have no question about that.
We'll go next to Mark Skoll.
Hey, Coach, after the Clemson game in 2018 in the college football playoff, you said this Notre Dame football team is on the brink of something special. Where do you think the program is at today?
We're 29-3 in our last 32 games. I don't know. We've won 22 consecutive games at home. We've won 12 in a row. I don't know. You guys decide.
We'll go next to Austin Huff.
Brian, you guys are obviously taking tomorrow off for Election Day. Just how important was it for you to get your players the information ahead of time to know about which candidates to vote for, and B, to be able to take tomorrow off to let them actually vote and be a part of the political process, for lack of a better term?
Yeah, we've been at this for about a month now, registering our players. As you know, our roster is from all over the country. So for them to run out to the local polls, they won't be going over to Clay Middle School to vote tomorrow. They're not from here. So we have, as of yesterday, I think we have 90 of 114 of our players have already voted by absentee mail-in voting. And we've already encouraged them to, again, use their voice. We're not, look, when we started this in terms of, being socially active, part of it is, to do something about being involved in making a change. And so they can make a change by voting. If they choose not to vote, then, that's their choice too. They have that right. But, I think each one of them clearly, when you have 90 out of 114 guys voting, this was very important to them. So we've prepared for that. We've been extremely active in it. So they won't be racing out to the polls tomorrow, but, you may see some guys that volunteer. I know we're giving out vote stickers tomorrow around campus, doing some things of that nature. Those things that are allowable by NCAA rules and regulations.
We'll go next to Eric Hansen.
Brian, I got a couple for you. The first one is, I remember chatting with you a little bit in the summer about Nick McLeod, and at that point you were optimistic about his ability to help you, but you felt like maybe there was a higher standard in the weight room and some other things. When did Nick kind of get in sync with all of that and your culture? The second part of it is, after the 2018 playoff game, you had a lot of optimism about that the gap was maybe a little bit closer between Clemson and Notre Dame than the score showed. What were some of the things that you feel like your program's done the past couple of years that maybe confirmed that or kind of pushed you closer to that, closing that gap?
Well, I think it's like anything else. When you have somebody that transfers into your program that hasn't been with you over a period of time, there's an acclimation, whatever word that you want to use that fits there. It takes a little time, and so Nick, although had a lot of snaps, I think he needed to really get a sense and feel for, what our strength and conditioning program was about. That took a little bit. Didn't happen overnight. I think he's fit in very well in terms of our culture and understanding the standards here at Notre Dame. And each program's different. Each program has, its own kind of standards, if you will. And I think he's done a terrific job of meeting those standards here and fitting in very well. I look back at the 18 team, and, we had 3 young offensive linemen that handled themselves very well against one of the best defensive lines in the country. We had some young defensive players that I thought did a very, very good job. I just felt like, we had a lot of young players that were going to continue to grow in our program, and we played an outstanding football team. People fail to recognize the next week they absolutely blitzed Alabama. And nobody talked about the talent gap there. Nobody talked about the coaching gap there. They just talked about the talent gap and coaching gap between the Notre Dame and Clemson game. But I just felt like from the eye test and what I saw, that was my opinion. And really all that matters is that we get an opportunity to play Clemson this Saturday and compete against them. And who knows, it might not be the only time we play them this year. So there'll be enough time to evaluate all this, and there'll be plenty of opinions, and pundits will make their own assessments, but we feel pretty good about where we are. We'll continue to develop our players in the manner that we feel is best for Notre Dame, and Dabo's going to continue doing a great job of developing the players that he has in the manner that he has. But we have different business plans, and so we'll do what we're doing, and should make for a great game on Saturday. I can tell you that.
We'll go next to Patrick Engel.
Hey, Brian, I have kind of a two-parter here for you. First, what kind of steadiness and kind of threat, especially after the catch, is Avery Davis giving you out of the slot? And second, when you go kind of up and down the individual defensive numbers or counting stats, maybe you don't see tons of Notre Dame guys up there in the national leaders, but what do you think maybe makes that not the best way to judge how your guys have played and how your defense has been so sturdy overall this year?
Avery Davis has been really good for us. Yards after the catch. He's playing a lot faster. He's really fast. If you put a clock on him, he's sub 4.5. I think there had been times where we felt like he hadn't played as fast as he actually is. He's playing a lot freer, a lot more confident. That's a good thing for us. Because when he gets the ball in his hands, he can rip some runs for us, and we're starting to see that. That confidence is really starting to show itself on the football field. And so when you have a confident player like Avery Davis, he just complements the size that we have on the perimeter that's starting to come together. You saw 1 week Ben do some really good things, then you see Javon really do some nice things for us. Joe Wilkins gets in the act there. And I think there's more to come from some other receivers that are still growing and are going to get their opportunity down the line. So I think all that together is coming together. As it relates to the defense in terms of stats, you know what they say about stats. I really think it's about keeping people off the scoreboard, keeping the points down, and our defense does a really good job of eliminating big plays, keeping the points down. And being fundamentally sound. And when you do that, I think that those are the most important statistics when you really look at it. I mean, the rest of those things end up coming out as individual stats. This is a team unit. It's a brotherhood of 11 guys playing together, and that makes it a dangerous defense.
We'll go next to Pete Sampson.
Brian, I want to ask you about building confidence for the team at a moment like this. 29-3 has to be a huge part of that. Weight room, huge part of that. But I mean, is the messaging any different in a week like this when you're trying to get the program to take another step, a step that maybe they have not taken?
No, this game. It's not the end all for us. I mean, it's just for us. We could win this game, but you could, if you lose to BC, this game doesn't mean anything. I mean, we're still in pursuit of a conference championship. So it's about steady play. It's about raising your level of compete on Saturdays, which we're in the process of doing. It's about consistency and performance, which we're certainly well on our way to checking that box. We've shown an incredible consistency as a football team of winning week in and week out. I mean, look, you're going to get opportunities like this, and you want to win these games. There's no doubt, but we can't be overly emotional about this football game and lose sight of the fact that we've got 5 more games to play as well. I mean, there's a lot of football still left out. So we can't empty the tank and say, hey, we beat Clemson, we've arrived. No, we haven't. We've got to take this game as an important game. It's the number 1 team in the country. You better play really well against a really good Clemson football team. And then get ready to move on and play a BC team on the road. That's really good too.
We'll go next to John Finneran.
Brian, I'm wondering if you would take a look at where you started the season and where you've seen improvement on your offense, your defense, and in your special teams.
Well, nobody knew about any of the running backs, so I think we could start there. Outstanding production from 3 running backs. Nobody knew anything about the wide receivers. I think we're starting to show that we're getting production. We got great production from McKinley this weekend. The week before, Ben Skoranek, I think it was mentioned early. Avery Davis. We had a freshman tight end coming in that hadn't played any college football. These are not small feats now. I mean, these guys have to come in. They have to be coached. They have to have the confidence. You just don't roll them out and say, hey, they've arrived. Let's go play. So I'm really proud of the way our guys have coached them and how they've responded. Because it's easy during this time where, we're in COVID. The campus is different. There's no fans. There's a lot going on, and a lot of these players are really stepping up on the offensive side of the ball and contributing. From a defensive standpoint, you've had I've already mentioned this. We've had 4 different combinations at the cornerback position that are rotating in. We lost some key players on the defensive line. You're seeing a Dalen Hayes step up. Ade starting to come into his own and playing a lot of football. We're playing Bo Bowers played a ton of football for us. Jack Kaiser. So, the list goes on and on. The safety position, we're getting really good complementary play at safety. That's a lot right there that has developed over these last 6 weeks in a very different time for us.
We'll go next to Pete Byrne.
Hi, Coach. I've got 2 questions for you. One, I'm just curious, what sort of sense do you get from your players about how much they're anticipating this particular Saturday? I mean, they did mention as such to us after the Georgia Tech game that this has been a game that they've been looking forward to. And secondly, I think today now twice you've mentioned that this might not be the last chance that you play Clemson this season. I'm curious, is preparing for a team that you think you might see more than once at all different from preparing for a team that you wouldn't expect to see again? Because that's rare in college football.
No, I think what I'm saying is that this is a long haul. I mean, this isn't a destination point for us this weekend, is that we've got many more games. We're playing for a conference championship, and so it's not like when we were an independent and you need to kind of get these games to, validate, your place in the college football playoffs. We're looking at winning the conference championship, and we have, 5 conference games. So and they all count as one. And I know this is the number 1 team in the country. Our guys know it's the number 1 team in the country. They're excited about that opportunity, but it counts as one. And so you have to be able to balance that off because the next week gets at you immediately. And if you empty the tank this weekend and you don't have anything left for BC, they're going to beat you flat out. So there has to be a measure of emotional mastery here where you understand the opponent, you're excited about it, but you got to play your best. And that's what we've been building up for is that competitive greatness on Saturday, but still understanding that there's a lot of football still in front of us.
We'll go next to Tim O'Malley.
Coach, we spoke about Dalen Hayes post-game, but I wanted to ask you if you've seen, I guess, over the last few games, an uptick in the defensive line's pressure. I know you've had success pressuring the quarterback with blitzers throughout the season, but has the front 4 and that rotation really started to come along in the last couple games?
Yeah, and Tim, you got to understand, right? The last 2 weeks we've had quarterbacks that are much more pocket passers. The first few weeks, those guys weren't in the pocket. They were movers. I mean, you had Cunningham who, is not staying in the pocket. The ball's coming out quickly. If you really look at the nature of the kind of offenses that we're playing against, Florida State, Louisville in particular, those 2 games, South Florida, those 3 in particular. Duke was not, obviously, but that was, we're getting the rust off us in that game. And, and I thought we got after the quarterback pretty good against Duke. But my point being is that I think we're getting into a situation where if you're going to be in the pocket, we're going to put some pressure on you and we're going to knock the quarterback down.
We'll go next to Adam Rittenberg.
Hey, Brian, I know you talked a couple weeks ago after the Pitt game about raising the compete level. I'm just wondering where you guys are at, I guess, in all three phases to getting to that point for this game, but as you've mentioned several times, for the rest of the season as well.
Yeah, I mean, I think we played really well defensively. We've given up, one real touchdown in the last couple of weeks against two ACC opponents. Offensively, we really controlled both football games offensively. So I think our level of play definitely has moved the needle in terms of what we're looking for. But again, that was all about understanding that, you can't up that compete level and be ready for a team like this unless you have great play. And I didn't want to just get through those games and then have to make a huge jump emotionally to play this game. You can't do that because, as I said, you won't be ready next week. So this was really about just raising our level of compete on Saturday, so we're at a great level to play and beat Clemson and still be in a great position to continue on without worrying about how we played the following week.
We'll go next to Lane Higgins.
Hey there, Coach Kelly. I've got a question that's a little bit specific to the circumstances that you find yourself in with this week, with knowing that Trevor Lawrence will be out. And last week in the game against BC, Clemson was down several of its premier defensive players like James Scalabry and Mike Jones Jr. Given that COVID can kind of change depth charts at last minute, is there any way to really prepare for that? And as you are gearing up for this game this year, is that something that you'll take into account, what personnel Clemson will have on the field?
No, because I was just, we have their depth chart here, and I'll take their fourth Sam linebacker. Let's see, I'll take their fifth defensive tackle. I'll take their fourth defensive end. So they're in pretty good shape. So now I do not wish COVID on them at all, and I do not wish them any injuries. But they're going to put out a really good product with the other players that they have. So we're gonna be prepared for the number one team in the country, and the guys they roll out, they're going to be pretty good.
We'll go next to Lou Samoji.
Good afternoon, Coach. You've mentioned and admitted that there's been some looking ahead process toward this weekend because this is such an important measuring stick many times for the program. But during the course of a season...
Did I say it was an important measuring stick for the program, or did you?
No, it's you've admitted that this is a game that you have looked forward to.
Thank you.
And the players.
Now we're accurate.
Okay, thank you. How much during those first 6 weeks is geared to that? Because sometimes there's this perception that, well, they're saving stuff for Clemson when you have to look at every week as its own entity. And then the second part is just kind of the future of Jafar Armstrong. Do you want to maybe move him to receiver? Will he stay at running back? What are your plans for him?
So anybody that says that they're holding plays or schemes for a team later in the year, I just don't buy that. And I've been doing it for over 30 years. There might be a play that, a trick play that you might hold out that you might have in your arsenal because you're up by 28 points that you don't use, and you save it for the next week. But in terms of who you are and in terms of who you want to be, that's who you are at this part of the season. Now, you have to prepare for a lot of things when you play a Brett Venables defense because there's a different blitz each week. There's different looks. It's 3 down. It's 4 down. And that's what makes them great. And that's what makes him one of the best defensive coordinators in the country. But in terms of who you are and your scheme and what you're doing week in and week out, we both are who we are. It will come down to the execution of those schemes, offense, defense, and special teams, more than anything else. So you're really not holding anything back from that perspective, saying, hey, we've got Clemson in 6 weeks. We're not going to do this or we're not going to do that. We're not coming out and split back and running the veer. They're certainly not going to come back and change what they do. Even if Trevor Lawrence was the quarterback, they're going to be who they are. And so I really think that's the most important thing to know. Regarding Jafar Armstrong, we've moved him to wide receiver. We felt like where we are in the program at this point, that the three backs that we have are pretty constant and consistent, and we're comfortable there. We think that Jafar can be much more of an impact player for us at the wide receiver position, and he will continue to work there. And eventually, I think when he gets a little bit more time there, he's gonna impact us and help us win football games.
We'll go next to Tyler James.
Brian, what does Travis Etienne do that makes it so difficult to defend him, and how much does having had to do that before in 2018 give you guys maybe some information of how to best do that?
Well, I think he's the best running back in the country, first of all. I'll go on record in saying that. Elite speed, tough inside-out runner, incredible out of the backfield. He's the complete package. When you're looking up complete running back in the dictionary, his picture and name should be there because that's who he is. And I don't know that there's a back that we've gone against, and we've gone against some great backs, that is as complete of a player as he is.
We'll go next to Ralph Russo.
Hey, Brian, sorry a little slow there. And I did join you a little late, so I apologize if this was addressed at the very top. Little bit of an odd schedule this week, right? Tuesday being an off day. And again, I'm sorry if you had addressed that. How'd you change your practice preparation schedule? And I just wondering about your thoughts on this. I think it seems like it was a good idea, but I also wonder if in practice the idea of having election day off might be more symbolic than a practical good for your players.
How we changed is that we had to come right back in after getting off a plane at midnight and rush our players back into the building during COVID. First thing in the morning to get them in the weight room, in the training room, and into meetings. Less than an ideal situation. But it is what it is. Today we will practice, and it really makes it difficult because, we're on a testing regimen that makes it difficult because we don't get all our testing back, at the appropriate time. Then you're looking at adding antigen testing while you're waiting for your PCR testing. So, yeah, there's a number of things. I don't know that, look, the NCAA certainly is trying to deal with a number of things that are going on in real time. And if they had all this information in a vacuum, maybe they would have reacted differently. I don't know. But there's some realities to this that make it difficult. We'll work through it. Our guys in particular, and I mentioned this earlier, we've got 90-something players out of 114 that have already voted because really very few of our players are from this area. They're from all over the country, so they've already voted absentee. So they'll go to class and they'll all be banging on the door of the football building wanting to do something tomorrow. So it is what it is, and you kind of deal with it. But I don't think there's any, bad intent here. It just, we're all kind of dealing with, the times that they are, and we're reacting to it.
And we'll wrap it up this afternoon with Dennis Dodd. And Dennis, I believe you're on mute.
Dennis left after that long answer I gave. He's like, I'm out of here. This guy won't shut up. Good.
All right, then we will wrap it up there. Thank
All
you
right.
very much, Coach.
Thank you.